Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we'll be covering the Binding of Isaac map generation. This tutorial will be split into 3 videos. This video will cover the actual map generation and implementation. The second video will extend the map generation to support room variations, and the third video will convert the map into playable rooms. As always, the code for this tutorial is available and free on my GitHub for your convenience, which is linked here and in the description of this video. Before I get into the code, I will give a quick theory lesson on how the algorithm actually works, but if you'd like to skip that and just get straight into the implementation, then jump to this timestamp here. Conventionally, a lot of map generation algorithms, especially within a 2D or top-down style game, will use a 2-dimensional array to handle the grid coordinates. However, Binding of Isaac actually uses a 1-dimensional array to represent a 2D grid. Let me show you how that looks and how it sort of differs. Let's set up a grid width of 9 and a height of 8, and set a 2D array to be equal to the width and height. Now with a 2D array, we can directly grab a position, say 5 and 3, and plot it easily into the grid coordinate that matches the X and Y position like this. Now alternatively, with Binding of Isaac's 1-dimensional array, there is a crossover in the logic, but there is a slightly different way to think about it. The way to treat the array is the single units values, or the 1s are our X coordinate, while the 10s are our Ys. Now that might sound confusing, but let me draw this out. We'll default our array to a size of 100, which when drawn out looks like this. But to properly visualize it in a grid, the numbers will look like this. So to retrieve the coordinate position, we have to match the X and Y values as the 10s and 1s. So say we wanted the 5, 3 position again, it would correlate to index 35 in the array. Now in terms of the actual generation, the grid coordinate will be given a binary value. 0 is unoccupied, 1 is occupied. And by default, all positions of course will be unoccupied. The generation starts at the center position, which for this example we'll say is 44. Then for every element in the queue, it will do the following. First, it will randomly determine a neighbor by either adding 10, subtracting 10, adding 1, or subtracting 1. During this, there's checks that will occur to check if the neighbor cell is already occupied or already contains enough existing neighbors. It will also check if enough rooms are created. And finally, there's also a chance to just randomly give up. This is so that the amount of rooms won't always be fixed to the maximum amount required, but there will be later checks to ensure that all special room types are fulfilled before the algorithm gives up completely. If all these checks are unfulfilled, then the neighbor cell is possible and can therefore be marked as an occupied cell, and it will be added to the queue. This generation continues until the checks are fulfilled in some way, and the next part will occur to assign special rooms. The special rooms in this case will be our shop, item room, boss room, and the secret room. During the algorithm, we will keep track of end rooms so that the shop, item room, and boss room can be assigned easily. In the chance that there's not enough end rooms and one of the special rooms doesn't get assigned, the algorithm will have failed and it will automatically reset all positions and occupied states, starting the generation over again. Once all special rooms are assigned, all that's left is the secret room, which has its own sort of logic setup because it will need to look for a neighboring unoccupied cell. During the algorithm, we're not exactly keeping track of the occupied cells. Of course, there is a way to condense it by keeping track, but if we do keep track, then it also means that identifying where the secret room will become a little bit more predictable. So to counter this, we will pick a completely random value from the array length and then complete a few checks. First, we check to make sure it's an unoccupied position. Then we check to make sure it's not connected in any way to the boss room. Then we make sure that the neighbors index are within the bounds of the grid. And finally, we want to do a check of how many neighbors the found position has. Ideally, this will be at least 3 neighbors, but depending on how many times we are running the check, we'll become more lenient with how we find the secret room. If no neighbors are found, we will continue running the loop, but this won't be infinite to ensure a failsafe occurs. And in that case, again, the algorithm will fail and reset. Once a valid secret room is found, the position will be marked as occupied and the algorithm will be complete. And like that, we'll have our very own Binding of Isaac style map generator. Let's get this into our own Unity project now. I've just created a new Unity 2D project. I'm using Unity 2022.3.4, but our version will not matter. Next, let's rename the scene to Map Generator, ensure our screen resolution is set to 16:9, and finally move the camera position to 2.5, -2, and -10, and change its size to 3. I've also imported some sprites that I created in Sprite, which looks like this, and I've updated the import settings. Next, let's create our 2 scripts, Map Generator and Cell. Let's open up our Cell script, remove the start and update function, and create 2 public int variables, the index and the value. That's all we'll need in this script for now. Let's now open up our map generator script and begin on that. We'll first create our variables. Then let's create a header called sprite references and create a few serialized values for our special room icons. Next, we'll create the following void functions. We'll also create a few functions that return a value with some having parameters passed into them. And for these functions that return a value, let's just ensure that they have a default value given so we don't have any errors. Let's start by working on our start function and set our default values. And have it call the setup dungeon function. Next, inside our setup dungeon function, we will create a loop to destroy any existing cells. Then we will reinitialize our values, call the visit cell function and pass in 45, which will be the middle, and finally call the generate dungeon function. Let's work on the visit cell function next. In here we need to make a few checks, and if any of these are successful, we want to return false before being able to set up this current cell. The first check we'll do is to make sure that this isn't an unoccupied cell. We'll then do a check by calling the neighbor count and seeing if the neighbors are greater than 1. Then we'll also check if the floor plan count is greater than the max number of rooms. And finally, we'll set a random 50% chance to end the algorithm. Let's condense this into a single if statement with the OR operator. If we get past all of this, then we have a successful cell that we can update. We'll enqueue the current cell index, update the floor plan array in this index to be occupied, update the floor plan count, call the spawn room function passing in the index, and finally ensure we are returning true here. Before we get into the core algorithm, we'll first set up the spawn room function and the neighbors count function. Starting with the spawn room function, we'll first convert the index into an x and y coordinate, and create a vector2 variable for the position. Then we'll create a new cell. With our new cell, we will update the value to be 1 and update the index to be the parameter. Finally, we will add this new cell to our spawn cells list. Moving on to our neighbor count function, we will replace the default return value with a scan through the neighboring array elements like this. Basically what this is doing is retrieving the index of the array element and checking the occupied state of it, ultimately returning a value between 0 and 4. Let's move back to our generate dungeon function and work on the core algorithm. In here we will create a while loop, which will occur for as long as there's an item in the cell queue. We'll create a reference to the latest index in the queue, and we'll also create a reference to check the X position, specifically for the case if the cell is within the 0 to 10 range. We'll create a bool called created, which will default to false. This is so we can track our end rooms accurately, and our checks will look like this. If you're wondering what this operator means, it's essentially saying if the created bool is already set to true, ignore the result of the visit cell function. Finally, inside this loop, we'll do a check if our created bool is still false, and if so, we can add this index to our end rooms list. Outside of this loop, we'll do a final check to see if the floor plan count is less than the minimum rooms, and if so, we'll recall the setup dungeons function and return out of this function. Below that, we'll call the setup special rooms function. For now, we won't add anything to it. That is the core aspect of the algorithm complete. We still need to create our special rooms, but our room layout is effectively done. Before we jump into Unity to set this up, let's quickly create a method to reset the map. In our update function, we'll just check if the spacebar is pressed, and if so, call the setup method again. Let's save this script, move into Unity and let it compile. Inside our hierarchy, let's create an empty object called map generator. We'll then add the map generator script to this object. You might notice we have a few references we need to fill out. We can drag the sprite references for each of the special rooms, but we'll need to set up our cell. We'll create another game object, rename it cell, and attach the cell script to it. Let's give it a sprite renderer and attach the room sprite onto it. We'll drag this object into our project folder, then we can delete it from the scene. Finally, back on the map generator object, we'll drag in our cell object into the cell reference. Now we can hit play and see our map getting generated immediately. If we press the spacebar, we can also see a new map get generated. If you notice that the cells are the wrong size, like there's some overlap or distancing, then you can fix this by adjusting the cell size value in the start function. Obviously for now, this is just the layout of the map without the special rooms assigned, so let's finish the setup. Back in our cell script, we'll create a new reference to a sprite renderer, and we'll create a function called setSpecialRoomSprite and pass in a reference to a sprite. Inside the function, we'll set the sprite renderer sprite to be equal to the sprite reference. Back in the map generator script, we'll work on our final few functions, starting with the setup special rooms. We'll first set the boss room index up like this, and we want to set it to the last element in the end rooms list. This way, it generally turns out to be the furthest room from the starting position. Simultaneously, we'll be doing a check to ensure that the end room size is greater than 0, and if it's not, we set the boss room index to -1. This way the map can fail and regenerate in the case that there's not enough rooms or dead ends created. If it's not equal to -1, then we want to remove that item from the end rooms list so that we don't reuse the special room. We will then set our item room index and shop room index to the value of the random end room function, and the secret room index to the value of the pick secret room function. Before we get into these functions, we'll again complete a check to ensure that those values were assigned correctly, and if not, the algorithm has failed and we will need to reset it. Since the secret room is a completely new room that hasn't actually been created yet, we'll then recall the spawn room function, passing in the secret room index. Finally, in this function, we will call the update special room visuals method. Moving on to the random end room function, we'll first do a check to see if the end rooms count is equal to 0, and if so, we just want to return -1. Otherwise, we can pick a random position from the end rooms list, update the found index, remove that room from the end rooms list, and return the found index. Inside of our pick secret room function, we'll create a for loop with the attempt count going up to 900. We'll identify a random coordinate position and find the index associated to that position like this. We'll then ensure that that index satisfies a few conditions. The first is to make sure that that position is unoccupied. The next is to make sure that it's not in any way connected to the boss room index. Then we want to make sure that it's not on the border and that it's within the grid in all cardinal directions. Finally, we want to ensure that it has some kind of neighboring count to an existing room. Ideally, the neighbor count will be greater or equal to 3, but the more that this loop gets run, the more lenient that the neighbor count requirement becomes. So as long as it's still at least 1. If the neighbor count fulfillment is met, then we want to return that index. We have all the setup complete now. The only thing left is to get our special room icons displayed. Inside of this final function here, we'll do a for each loop through our spawned cells list and compare the cell's index value with the stored index values for our special rooms. For each of the values, we will call the setSpecialRoomSprite, passing in the sprite reference of the room type that we're checking. And once that's done, again we can save the script and jump back into Unity to let that compile. Inside of our project folder, we will double click our cell prefab, right click the main object, and create a new empty object which we can call Special Room Icon. Inside this empty object, we will attach a sprite renderer and update the sorting layer to be 1, so that it renders in front of the room. Finally, ensure that in the parent object, we drag in the Special Room Icon's sprite renderer to the sprite renderer reference on the cell script. Now, if we press play, our map gets generated completely with all the icons updated accurately. And every time we press space, a new map will get generated. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below or join my Discord and ask me through there. Thanks again for checking it out, and I'll catch you guys in part 2.